Motorcycles and their history were considered poor cousins to the motor car.
There's nothing old about this racing machine, but its owner, TT rider Brian Green, nevertheless shares in a hobby of his father Lance, that of collecting and studying historic motorbikes. At their garage at Wrentham in Suffolk, every spare moment is spent on renovating old machines, often retrieved from the scrap heap. This is a 1912 Triumph he bought for 5 shillings.
Keeping their story alive was left in the hands of those few enthusiasts with skills in renovation and some room in their backyard.
Among his many fine veterans, all built before 1924, is this Belgian FN of 1913 with shaft drive instead of the conventional belt. Another unusual type is this 1914 Scott twin two-stroke water-cooled machine. The Wicker sidecar is of 1903 vintage. But perhaps the most spectacular is the comparatively modern Mira car of 1922 with its push start.
The attitude of many observers was at best condescending.
It's safe to say that motorcycles seldom capture our imagination in the same way as their four-wheel counterparts. Yet a collection like this proves they have a background story which is equally fascinating and from which one can derive a lot of fun.
He would have done well to have been reminded that 2 wheels was where it really all began. Unsophisticated, but this is the world's first example of a single-track 2-wheeled vehicle. Unveiled in 1817 in Germany, it was dubbed the hobby horse, and the riding style was aptly described as paddling. It was over 40 years before the pedal and crank principle was introduced by a Frenchman named Michaud. Once released from the fetters of paddling, bicycle technology developed quickly. This is the ordinary, better known as the penny farthing, which could pitch its rider over the handlebars and striking only the smallest object. The British countryside was little changed by these innovations. When they invaded what we now like to look back upon as a pastoral paradise, they brought no noise and no fumes. But in 1885, when a small petrol engine was fitted onto a wooden cycle frame, the peace would soon be shattered forever, and the 20th century was born, screaming at the top of its lungs. Motorcycle clubs sprang up all across Britain, riding the initial wave of excitement that these engines ushered in. It had been the First World War which had really increased the popularity of the motorcycle. During that conflict, man and machine had lived in close proximity for the first time. A perceived strangeness and even magic that lay behind the workings of the combustion engine had been removed. But this familiarity did not breed contempt. It bred excitement, and in the 1920s, the amateur clubs inaugurated competitions like this, the Colmore Cup, testing themselves and their machinery against nature and the elements. Forms of motorcycle competition, of course. More expensive, quicker, more dangerous, and less in the hands of the Sunday afternoon amateur. The Isle of Man Tourist Trophy for motorcycles began in 1907. The Manx government had separate powers from Westminster and seemed more than happy to close its roads for the purpose of racing. The mainland remained less than enthusiastic about road racing, whilst the island for close on a century has been a mecca for the fanatical. In these early years, the TT bred heroes like De La Haye and Walker, and legends like Belosset and Sunbeam. Another classic event lay just a short journey from the Isle of Man, across the Irish Sea. The Ulster Grand Prix was the fastest race in Europe, and here, in 1928, Graham Walker would be victorious on a route averaging for the first time anywhere 80 miles per hour. Resentment at having to close public roads in order to indulge these early riders in their search for glory meant the mushrooming across the country of purpose-built tracks. Like the TT races, Brooklands too began in 1907. This all-concrete construction of radically banked curves, connected by two straights, was built with speed in mind. The circuit's proximity to the leafy suburbs of Surrey necessitated a muffler be used, the so-called Brooklands can. They soon became standard items on all racing machinery. The world land speed record, the goal which has inspired many Britons throughout the 20th century, has been well served by the motorcycle and by one man more than most, Joe Wright. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, he had an ongoing battle with the German Ernst Henner about who had the right to claim the title fastest man on two wheels. Took his JAP-engined Excelsior to Pendine Sands, to Hungary, and here to Cork, where once again he broke the world speed record, travelling in excess of 150 miles per hour. The reputation of the TT as the ultimate testing ground for rider and machinery continued to grow throughout the 1920s.